Hey, my name is Mike, and in this video, I'll show you how to design a Shopify store. We're going to go step by step, and this is a tutorial for beginners where I'll show you every tool, every feature, every setting that you need to know along the way to build a professional Shopify store that when people view it, they're probably going to assume it was built by a team of web developers. So there's a lot of really powerful things in Shopify. And if you just go onto Shopify as a beginner and maybe you never made a website in the past, it honestly can be very intimidating. So the goal of this video is to, like I said, walk you through step by step all of the tools along the way so you can follow along right next to me and build your own website with me. So with that being said, a couple notes. One, a lot of people charge for courses or they have upsells. This has none of that. This is a full tutorial with everything I think you need. If you don't believe me, you can check the description. I don't have links to any courses or I have nothing to sell you. I don't even have a way to accept your payments. Number two, for this tutorial, I'll try to speak at a consistent pace. If that is too fast or too slow for you, YouTube has some playback controls down there. You can click on the little settings icon and change to maybe 0.75x or 1.25x to get the right speed for you. Number three, I really encourage you to follow along click by click and build your own store alongside me. But just in case anything happens, your laptop dies or whatever, I recommend you save this video. So either like copy the link and paste it somewhere else, or just click the little save button on YouTube. And that way you can find it in the future whenever you're working on a more advanced feature on your website. Maybe you want to revisit this video. So that said, I'm going to get started on my laptop. I'll be using the Google Chrome browser, but you can do this on any browser out there. So you can get started if you don't already have a Shopify account. You can go through the link in the top of the description. It will give you an extended trial. So 3 months of $1 per month for Shopify, a great little 90-day runway to get started. And in addition, like I said, this video is not sponsored. We have no upsells, and we're able to fund projects like this through affiliate links. So at absolutely no extra cost to you, if you go through our link, you set up your Shopify, we'll get a small commission from Shopify for helping you get started, and that can help fund projects like this and keep them free. So if you are interested in going through our link, the link is down below in the description and in a pinned comment, or you can type in santrelmedia.com/Shopify. And like I said, that should give you $1 per month for 3 months. The promo may change depending on when you're watching this, but we can start off by entering our email address, and we can start our free trial. Once you create a password, it's going to ask you a couple questions right here. I'm going to skip this step. This is really just going to change a couple things on your dashboard, but it doesn't really matter long term. So I'm going to say skip, and we'll build our website from the dashboard. So I'm just going to say skip. So that brings us to our Shopify dashboard. I'll be talking about all the tabs on the left side throughout this video. They're all really important and really manage different aspects of your store. But you'll notice that there is no edit website button there. You actually find that down in sales channels. And the way Shopify operates is using sales channels. So sales channels could be if you're selling on maybe eBay, or if you're selling on Instagram, Meta essentially, if you're selling on TikTok, those would be different sales channels. Another one could be point of sale or just using shop. So the online store is really going to be the main one that people think of when they think of a Shopify store. So if we click on online store, we have themes, pages, and preferences. Themes are going to be in step one here, just choosing what the template actually is going to be that you want to use for your store. So by default, they give you one called Dawn. It's good enough if you want to get started with that, but I usually recommend people go and check out some of the themes. You could also generate some themes using AI. I find that these are still, they're decent, but they're not really as good as the themes that you can find over here. So I click on Visit Theme Store. That's usually what I do when I make websites. And there are a lot of paid themes. They're usually like $300 or $400. So I don't usually get those for new stores when you're getting started. I don't think it's really necessary. I think the free ones do a decent enough job. And there's a couple new ones that Shopify actually just launched that are free, including Horizon right here, which we will be using in this video. And you can browse through and see whichever one makes the most sense for your store. Now, keep in mind all the images, the colors, everything can be changed. This is just going to give you a head start on the layout of your website and the overall feel of like the checkout page and stuff like that. So if I click on Horizon, I can then say View Demo Store, and this will show me what the store generally looks like. So we can check out what the cart looks like over on the right side. We can see our account page. We can go to shop. We can kind of, go through the whole order process on any one of these and see what the general feel of this website is. Now, I like the Horizon one. I want to use it in this video. So I'll say try theme. It's going to be adding that to our online store themes, but it won't be placed as our default theme now. You'll notice right here, Dawn is still the one shown up here. So if we scroll down, It's because we didn't, well, one, it's still loading, but we actually have to click publish on this. In the meantime, this is a password protected store, so nobody's able to go on our store and buy anything or do anything. And in order to remove the password, we have to choose a plan. So I'm just going to choose a plan now. Like I said, it's still a free trial for 3 days and then $1 per month for the next 90 days after that. So I'm going to choose a plan now. We can always change it later if we want, but I just like having something so it unlocks all the features. So I'm going to go with the basic one, $29 per month. That's usually if you do annual. I think it's $39 per month if you pay monthly. But I will have a tool in the description as well. If you have a large enough store and you're getting a lot of sales volume, it may be worth it to get the more expensive plan, even if you don't need the extra features, purely because you are getting a cheaper credit card rate. So the credit card processing rate is 0.2% less. And if 0.2% for your volume is more than $50, then it's worth it to go with the next plan up. So I have a tool that can help you calculate that down below, but I think for most beginners, the basic plan will be just fine. I'm going to select this plan. I'm going to go monthly for this just because it is a tutorial. Feel free to go annual. Like I said, you save $10 per month, $120 per year saved there, and that's after the $1 trial is up. So let's enter my payment details. All right, now we have our subscription. We can enter our business details. So save business address, and that should bring us back to the online store. So now we have the option to remove the password. Now in the beginning, I just removed the password right away. I think it makes sense. Technically, somebody could find this website now, but it's so unlikely that would happen that I just removed the password. If you want to keep it on, you can always remove it later, but now we can go down, and before you click customize, remember we got the new Horizon theme, but it's not the default theme. So let's click on publish. We can publish this theme and it'll push up there. Now, the reason that it's kind of a separate thing is in the future, if you ever want to redesign your entire website, you can customize down here. You can add a new theme, customize it down here, and then when it's fully ready to go, you can just swap it out with the functional website by clicking publish, and then you just change it to your entire website with just one button there instead of having it like half done while people are visiting your website. So in the future, keep that in mind. Now, what we want to do is start customizing this one right here. We don't have any products yet, so I will be adding products in a second. But for the sake of designing like the header and the top and everything, I'm going to go and click customize here. And I want to show you the general tools and the layout that we have available with Shopify when designing a site. So they use what's called a section layout. Some people call it a strip layout, but you can see when I hover over this, this is all outlined in blue here. That is one section. If we scroll down, this entire area, this product list is another section. And then down here we have our footer, which is technically another section, as well as on the top we have our header. The way Shopify shows us this is not interactive. It's just going to highlight everything on the right side and we can click and edit that. But on the left side, we have this tree, this hierarchy of how the website is structured. So we've got the hero, we've got the product list right here, we've got the footer and the header. That's it. Pretty simple website to start with. If we want to add new sections in there, we can either hover between where this little blue button pops up and says add section, or we can click add section on the bottom. So if I add a new section, maybe this section, let's just go with a really simple one. I'll say custom section. We'll talk about how those other ones are set up in a minute, but I think it's helpful to see how a custom section is built. Now, before we go and edit it, let's click on the little back button there. And you can see next to the word custom section, we have this little 6-dot array, and that's true for all of them. We can rearrange the entire website by shifting the sections up and down. So if I click on this and drag it up, this will now be, I can actually put it right between product list, and hero. So let's collapse that. This is the new section. You can't see it because there's nothing in it at the moment. We have to add what's called blocks. So blocks are going to be within a section, and this could be images, this could be text, it could be buttons. So let's click add block, and you'll see, as I mentioned, there are a lot of different elements or blocks that we can add in here. Let's start off by adding maybe an image. So I added an image, and that image is taking up this entire block. And you'll notice every time I add something like a section or a block, it brings up this little interface on the left side. So that's the editor for that element. So if I go back, you'll see here, if I want to edit the section as a whole, I click on that. If I want to edit the image or the block in particular, I click on that. So we can select our image. Let's select an image. I'm going to upload one. So we have an image, it's selected. I'll say done, and that will add that as my first image on here. And we have some options with this image. Here we can add a link. So if you want this to link to something else on your website, you can have it linked to a product or a collection. You can have it linked to a blog post, or you can have it linked to, your own custom link. If you want to go to like your YouTube page or something like that, let's do that right now. So I could type in the actual link, Click on that, and it's going to be linking to just a YouTube channel, actually my YouTube channel. We have some settings in regards to the size, so we could have an automatic aspect ratio. We can make it wider or narrower, so we can make it fill the entire space. That makes the most sense. But if you say fit, you can change it. Like, okay, right now it's really tiny. Let's say fill, that makes most sense. And we have both desktop and mobile. Something worth noting is that when you're building your website, it's worth checking it out on desktop and also seeing what it looks like on mobile. So at the top right, you'll see these three options here: desktop, mobile, and full screen. If we click on mobile, that'll show us what this looks like on mobile. So maybe on mobile, you want to have a custom width. You want it to be maybe a little bit less wide than the entire screen. And we can customize all of that for both desktop and mobile, as I mentioned. We have the height we can change to fit or fill. I have no borders on this, but you could add borders, or you could add a little radius to the corner. So you can see it's kind of rounded off there with a 54 pixel radius. Maybe 35 will be better, kind of a more rounded feel to the website. And we can add padding to any side. Padding is going to be extra space around this image. So see how it's kind of touching the top, that top section right there. If you don't want those colors touching, you can add a little bit of padding on the top, and now you have a little extra buffer, a little extra space there. So that's the image block. If I go back, I can add another block to this section. You can have multiple blocks within one section. So if I click on add block, so I hover over that, click on add block, and now maybe this next one's going to be some text. We can say, let's have a heading. And again, the editor pops up on the left side. But before we edit this, I want to show you something. Now we can actually edit this entire section. So let's click on back. Let's click on custom section, which, by the way, let's rename this. Click on the three dots and let's rename this to, name it to welcome section. So that way it makes the tree make more sense in the future when you have names for everything. And you can actually change the way this is oriented. So right now we have everything stacked vertically. We can instead do horizontal. So we have every block is added horizontally. And so here you'll see when I do that, it puts the text on the right side. If we go back, I will edit this a little more in a second. Below that, you can select the alignment. So you could have it center aligned. You could have it right aligned, right justified. I'm going to go center, kind of center everything here. And the position, of course, of the text or any block that's added, let's make that, right now it's center, but you can see also top or bottom is another option here. I'm going to go center with that as well. We can change the gap, and we can change some other things in regards to the size. We'll get into the color schemes soon, but that's going to be on the left side, so don't change anything with that yet, but that's going to be how you change the font, the button, and the background color kind of as one cohesive thing. So let's click on back, and if you want to shift what's left and right, similar to adjusting the sections vertically, we're able to hover over each one and click and drag that above. So now it's going to be on the left side. Now you might be wondering, okay, I can add things horizontally or vertically, but how do I have an image on the right side and then text with a button below that? Well, you can do that using what's called a group, which is going to be a type of a block. So if I click on add block, we can scroll down to group. You should see group somewhere down here. There it is, group. It looks like a little folder icon. Just click on group. We're going to click on, well, if it doesn't bring you into the group editor, then you should be fine. But otherwise, if it shows you the group editor, just click back so you see the hierarchy here. And now we can add blocks within that, or we can click and drag blocks into that. So the heading, I'm going to click and drag that into the group. And then within the group, let's add another block right here. And maybe below, we're going to add a button. So let's click on add button. And now you'll see, just like I mentioned, it's going to have the text and then a button below that. And maybe we want some additional text in there as well. So we have a heading. Of course, a heading is going to have, larger font and maybe just a couple words. We want to have below that, let's click on add new block and add a little bit of text down here. Just a quick description of, what the new arrivals are. Just kind of filling that out a little bit. Let's click on back. So if we click on button, let's kind of fill out this button a little bit. We can choose the label for the button, what text is actually being shown there. So maybe we could say, let's say claim deal. You can say whatever you want here. And then we can choose where it's linking to. So we could link to a collection or a specific product. We don't have our products yet. I'm going to add those in a minute because I think the future of designing this website will really depend on having some products in there. So let's just say collection, maybe like the homepage collection that we already have by default. Let's just link to that one so we have something that this is linking to. The style, we can have this as primary, and that changes like what the button's going to look like for your specific theme. And then we can choose again the fit for this if we want it to be desktop and mobile, a slightly different size for that. Now if we go back and we click on group, there are a couple things I want to edit. You see how it's all left justified? Maybe I want this to be right justified. We can click on that within the group settings here, and that'll move everything over to the right. Same thing with, we can do vertical or horizontal on how this is actually laid out. So if you did the opposite, you had like one image on top and then like you want to have 3 buttons below that, you could have those as a group oriented horizontally, if that makes sense. So actually, I think center would probably be best for this. I'm going to center it. We can choose the gap if we want to have more space around or between items. And this group could actually have a different color scheme if you wanted. So it kind of acts as its own little block of blocks within your section here. So if I turn this off and don't inherit the color scheme, we could have a different color scheme in this block. I don't really like that. Wait, let's add a radius. Maybe I will like that. Whoa, I broke it. I don't really like that, so I'm going to just leave it inheriting the color scheme so it matches everything else. You can have a background image behind this as well. You know, it doesn't really make sense here, but let's go back. Let's collapse the group. I think the group's looking pretty decent. Of course, we can double click on these, as I mentioned before, and just edit what the text says. Same thing with the header. But yeah, let's collapse the group. And I want to readjust the size of this. I really want this to move over a little bit. So let's go to welcome section. So let's click on image. Let's make that a little bit less wide. Let's make it a custom width, actually. There we go. That's perfect. So now that I'm kind of liking this one a little bit more, it's not finalized, but let's talk about how to remove sections. So the one on the top is one that I don't really feel like I need there anymore. I don't like the way it looks. So we can hide it or just not show it for now. And that way it's still there. If we ever want it, we can unhide it. Or since I'm very confident I don't want this one, I'm just going to click the trash can and that will delete it. Now, the website's looking very minimal right now, but we're going to add a lot of stuff fairly quickly using a couple really cool pre-built sections. So let's remove the product list as well. And I want to add a new section, and let's talk about some other kinds of sections. The first one was a custom section that we built out, but you don't have to do that every single time. If you look down here, we have a lot of other kind of banners. Those are going to be like large announcements, usually for the header higher up in your website. Sometimes smaller things like this could be like free shipping or made in the USA or whatever that you could have, you know, scrolling as a marquee there. We have split showcase, and then down here you can kind of scroll through them. A lot of collections ones. You can have carousel showing a bunch of different products in a collection. I really like that one, and I think we will have that one set up. You could also have it set up as a grid or like a kind of editorial spaced out a little bit. We've got contact forms, and we do have to set that up on the back end. I'll talk about a good software that you could use for managing emails. And we have, of course, custom stuff. If you want to add some code, that's right there. There are featured product options here. And again, similar to the collection, we can have them either like just recommended products or just kind of scattered out as an editorial format. We have editorial stuff. We have really, they call it storytelling. Really, this is going to be more like FAQs, any other information kind of things, maybe like our story, or if you want to have a quote or testimonials, all of that could be down in this little section right here, or this group of sections, I should call it. So let's say maybe this one, I mentioned we wanted to have a collection, but yeah, let's do a collection instead of a list of products. That way, if we change products, we won't have a blank space there. It'll automatically refill with something else. We're going to use smart collections, and I'll show you how to set that up in a minute. But let's say we're going to have a carousel of collections. We've got collections, and you can have multiple different collections. So you could have like the summer, the fall, the spring collection, whatever. And that's why they look a little bit different there. What I want to have is going to be a product list. And so let's say the product list is going to be a carousel like this. I know we had a grid before. I want a carousel, just like one line of products. And I'm going to click on that. It'll add it immediately below the welcome section. So we don't have any products just yet, and I'm going to add those, but let's kind of tie up some loose ends here first. I want to talk about the colors on the website and kind of making it our website. So far, we don't have any kind of branding on here. We don't have any logo. So it still says my store on the top, for example. To change all of that stuff, of course, we could click on logo, but the best way to get to that is on the left side. So we have sections. Section is going to be like our hierarchy tree. Below that, we have theme settings. So within theme settings, it all starts to kind of unravel now. We have the logo and the favicon. So favicon is going to be, I don't know if you guys can see in my screen recording. Yeah, so if I do that, you can see it right there, a little Shopify logo that's showing up on the top of the website right now. You don't want that. You want it to be your logo showing up on the top of your own website. So let's choose the default logo. This is going to be probably shown at the top. I'll add a file. And let's say this is going to be like an outfit, or I don't know, just like a outdoor kind of store. So I've got a little kind of fictitious logo made up right here. I'm going to add this logo. So let's select that one. We'll say done. Nice. We've got a logo, and you can see it added it automatically in the top there. We can have an inverse logo if we ever need a different color. Let's add that just in case. So I'll select a favicon, upload something super simple. You want a logo that's going to be, not a bunch of letters up there because it is so tiny on the top of a browser. We could say done. And now we can start choosing our colors. Now, there are 7 actually different color schemes here. Sometimes there's not quite as many. We can also add more as well if you wanted more, but each one, so this entire section would use like one scheme. The group could use a different scheme as we talked about before, but this is all color scheme 1, so you'll probably want one that's kind of white based, one that's dark based, maybe some in between that are like more colorful, more accent style ones. So let's say I'm going to go with scheme 2, and I'm going to change the background to white. Let's make it white, and then maybe we want to match the colors of the logo for like the text and stuff like that. Now, if you don't know the color of your logo or other elements in your graphics, we can go to Google and just type in HTML color code identifier. And there's tons of free ones out there. I'm just going to choose the first option in Google here. We can upload our image, say use your image. From here, you can just click any part, so like the green right here. We can then highlight that hex code. I'll copy that, and then over here for the headings, we could just paste in that hex code there. So hit enter, and that should be green now. Same thing with this one. Maybe the links will be green. Let's just make everything. The primary button could also be green. And you can change so much for each color scheme. As you can see, we've got the inputs, we've got different variants. So like if someone's literally typing on your website, anything like that, you can change colors for literally everything for each scheme. But that's how you'll go about changing the schemes. Just showing you got to, set up multiple. And I recommend going through and at least setting up like 3 or 4 when you're getting started, so that you have those options for each block. And it's more consistent across other pages and checkout and everything on your website. So with that color scheme set up, before we continue here, let's just kind of set that as the color scheme for this first section. If I click on welcome section, I can then go down and select the color scheme. Let's set it to scheme 2. It'll change all of this to a darker green to match the logo. That looks decent. I like how that's set up. Ultimately, I think I might change the top in a minute anyway, but let's go back to those settings. So that's how you can go about managing the colors throughout your website for buttons, for text, and for images, or really pretty much everything, honestly. Typography, you can change the fonts throughout your website. So generally, you don't want to have a lot of fonts on any website. So Shopify gives you, 4 fonts right here, and they're going to be consistent on your website. So the body, we can choose, from a number of different fonts. I'm not going to change these. I think that these are fine for what I'm doing, but if you wanted something that maybe in headings, you want like something a little bit more rustic or a little bit more in line with, whatever your style is, you can select it and see what it's looking like on your website in real time. So I don't know, maybe Lobster 2, that's a funny name for a font. So maybe that's going to be the one we want. I'll just say select, just for the sake of showing what that is. We can also choose some different font aspects. So if you want larger font for paragraph, or if you want the line height to change, if you want to, this is really getting a little bit more nitty gritty here as you start editing through your website. So this right here, I believe, should be a heading 1. So if we go to heading 1, we could change the size of that, maybe make that like, a lot bigger or a little bigger. It actually didn't affect it. That must be an H2 right there. Yeah, that's H2. So you can see heading 2, you're able to change, if you want that size a little bit bigger or smaller, this is where it'll go to change the size. So if you want to change the size for some font on your website, say the header, and you want it to be a little bigger and you can't just click and drag to resize that, you'll go here into settings, go to theme settings, go to fonts, and then for H2, which that one is, you're able to change the size of that font to be, a little bit smaller or a little bit larger. We can also change, like I said, the line height. So if we want it to be normal, a little taller, or loose, normal, a little shorter, or loose, give you some more space there. Same thing with letter spacing. We can space it out a little bit more, make it a little easier to read with a font such as this. And if you ever wanted to switch everything on your website to all caps, you could definitely do it. That's going to look so bad with this kind of handwriting style, but let's go back to default, and we don't need that. Same thing with all the other ones, headings, 1 through 5. Then page layout. We have some settings down in page layout. We can choose if we're going to have a normal, wide, or narrow website. Narrow websites are pretty versatile on a lot of other devices. We can set animations, so if we have an animation or not when we're transitioning between pages. And I know earlier we could customize the buttons in the, in terms of color up there, but we can also change, the border radius. So on these buttons, if we want it to be have a little more of a radius, you can even make them like super rounded off. If we do something like this, you can see it looks like a little pill right now, but I'm going to leave it, somewhere around maybe 25 for this website. We can change the font if we want it to be an accent font or the primary font on the buttons. The text weight, we could also make it a little bolder on buttons as well, just to make things stand out a little more. It doesn't really look great there, so I'm going to leave it as it was. We have settings for our cart, although not a ton of settings right here. You can decide if it's a page or a drawer. So drawer will pop out on the other side. Page is going to be, an entire cart page. kind of self-explanatory there. And if it is a drawer, you have some settings here for what that's going to be. Maybe that's going to be color scheme 2, which is really utilizing, the theme colors of green that we have in our logo. There's a bunch of other things like icons, input fields, popovers, all these different things have some subtle settings you can adjust in them. So like swatches if you want to change settings for that. But I recommend kind of browsing through this, setting up everything as you like early on in designing your website. So now I think is a really good time once we have a little bit of the structure for the website. That's a good time to start changing colors and seeing what's going to actually look good. So when we finish the building of our website, we have everything ready to go as we start to add more things on here. Now, I think the next step is going to be adding some products to the bottom here so that we have this kind of filled out. Now, you're not going to add products right here. Instead, Shopify manages our products for us. You should be clicking save as often as possible, maybe every 5-10 minutes. Now let's go back to the dashboard. We can then click on products. So on the left side, remember, this is where the products are, and we've got collections, and we'll talk about those, but let's add our first product here. And for this product, we can choose a title. Maybe the first one, let's just say it's going to be a sleeping bag. We can add a description. I'm just going to generate text using some AI right here. Usually it's not the best way to make a description for your products, but for the sake of time, I'm going to use that feature. It does exist, and when you're just getting a store up and running, that could be a really useful feature just to add something in there to populate it. Then later you can go back and change all of the text. It's also worth noting that in this text editor, we have some tools. Of course, the normal text editing tools, like we can make it bold, italic, underlined. We can also change the color of some text. So if we want that to really stand out, you've got some options there. We can choose if it's going to be center or right or left justified. I'm going to leave this as left justified. And if we want to, we can actually highlight some text. So maybe closely fitting the body. Maybe we did a research study on that, and we have a little article we want to share. We can add a link here, and maybe that link is going to go to, like I said, maybe a blog article, and we can open that in a new window. Let's insert that link. And now when somebody's reading the description of this product, they can click on that and learn a little bit more without having to add all that information in the product description here. You can add images and videos here. I don't recommend adding them here. Generally, adding them down in media is going to be better. It just doesn't really look as good in most themes when you add images to the description up here. So let's upload some media. I'm going to select 3 images. We'll upload them all. Now, the first image is going to be what's really showing up when someone views your product or sees your product, for example, in a collection or something. And the other ones will be visible once they actually click on the product. So maybe the first one, I'm going to make this the first image. Not that it's a great image, but just for the sake of having more color there, I'll add that. We can choose the price. Maybe it's $139. We could have a compare at price, so maybe it's more expensive at other retailers, or maybe it's on sale right now. We can charge tax, and we can also add some cost per item stuff here. This is not going to be visible to customers, but it's good for you just to have some information on the back end, so you can track what your margin is when especially as you start doing some marketing and stuff like that. You can see what you're spending money on and how much profit you're actually making. Tracking quantity makes sense for products like this one that are physical products, not like downloadable products or anything. So let's say we have maybe 45 of these in stock, and we could either continue selling when they're out of stock or not. Depends on if you want to have back orders, if it's really easy to get. And we can add a SKU or a barcode. If you have more than one product on your site, I find this very, very valuable. So let's say this one's 10,001, and I don't have a barcode for this one. We'll just leave it as is right there. The shipping product or the shipping weight rather, we can add some information there. So maybe this is like 4 pounds. And if you have customized information, maybe you're shipping internationally, you can add it down here. If you have variants, we can add them. So I'm going to say, let's say size is the variant. We can create that as a variant. And the values that we have, we can say tall, then we could say regular. I'll just have 2 variants for this one. We can say done. Now we have 2 different variants there. And you can add other options. Maybe we want to have color as well. And color, we could say this is gray is the first color, but we could actually add other colorways as well. So maybe the other ones are like a blue one and a beige one. I don't know, just we'll add those in there. And now we have kind of a permutation of all of these. So for each one, you can see tall and regular. Each one has 3 variants. If you click the drop down, you can edit them individually. So maybe beige is more expensive, and we can reflect that right here. We can make it maybe 50 cents more expensive. Now it gives us a little price range there, but if we wanted to edit all of them at once, instead of clicking the drop down, you could just click right here, and we can actually change all of them to $149 for the regular one. As you can see, now they're all $149. We do need to track inventory for each one individually, so that makes sense because they are different products. So we'll say maybe each one has, like 3 in stock, and same thing up here. We could have 3 and 3, and it shows the total available for tall and for regular now. With the drop down, you can see individually tall gray, tall blue, and tall beige. And then on the very bottom, this is how it's going to show up in a search engine. So when somebody Googles this and they find it, you'll see the name of the product, which looks pretty decent right there. You'll see the description, they show the price, and it says my store and this terrible domain. That'll be some of the next things we will fix here. But let's just save this. Now we have our first product saved and ready to go. Let's go back to products. I'm going to kind of breeze through this. I think you guys get the idea of how to add a product. I'm going to add 2 more just so we have some more products on here. Now I've got 3 simple products here. We're going to go and make a collection. So if I click on collections on the left side, we have one that's kind of automatically added called homepage, but let's say create a new collection, and we can either make a manual collection in which we select the products individually. So let's do that first and say, maybe it's going to be going fishing, just something relevant for that. And we can select the product. So if I click browse, maybe the canoe paddles and the net would make sense. I can add those, and those will make sense here. We can also add an image. So we have kind of a little banner for when we have this collection shown on the website. And let's go with this one right here, just as a good image. Done. And this one's ready to go. We can save that. That collection is pretty straightforward. It kind of makes sense. But smart collections is really what I am most interested in. I think it's probably the most beneficial, or really a good way to automate a lot of your work. So in the future, if you remove or add products, you don't have to go in and remember to update all of your collections. So maybe this is going to be under $100. A very simple collection idea. All of our best products. And here we can say smart collection, and we have some options. So it could either match all conditions or any conditions. So it's like an and or an or for anyone who understands like some computer logic style stuff. We can say tag is equal to something. So instead of tag, let's say price is less than $100. And we could add other conditions to say, all right, it has to be less than $100 and it has to be in stock, right? So we could say inventory. I thought I saw inventory stock is greater than 0. So that way, anything that's in stock and is less than $100 is recommended there. We don't want to be recommending products that are out of stock. And as long as both conditions are met, it will automatically be included in this collection. So I'm going to add an image for this collection as well. And sure, I think this should be a decent image to use. So we'll save that. And smart collections, kind of talking about this a little bit further. If we look at add other conditions, we've got inventory stock, we've got category, we have title. So maybe the title has to contain certain letters or words, or ends with something, or doesn't contain something. You can really be very specific. The weight could be a limiting factor here. You could have the title, the meta fields, the compare at price. So it could be anything that's like on sale. There's a lot of different things you can add in for those conditions. And like I said, either all or any of the conditions can be met to either restrict or expand the search essentially for this smart collection. So we have this one. Let's go back to collections, click on collections, and now we have 2. Pretty good. We've got 2 different collections here, plus the one that they gave us, so technically 3. Might as well talk about the left side while we're in products right now. We've got inventory, so all of our products, you can see what's in stock, and we can always add some more and adjust this as needed. Purchase orders would make sense if you are, or transfers as well, if you are kind of managing an inventory or moving it between locations. And then we have gift cards. I'm going to add a gift card now. I think you might as well add it just in case somebody likes your shop and doesn't know, like they want to get something from your shop for maybe their nephew or their niece or whatever, and they don't know what to get. They can get a gift card. So let's create a gift card, or we can make it as a product. Let's make a gift card product, and that way it's shoppable in our product. Somebody can buy it. So we could say O'Brien Outfitters gift card. We can choose the denominations. $10 might be a bit low for this website, so maybe we'll go up to $150. And you can add other ones even higher than that if you wanted to. I'm going to save the gift card product. So that's very straightforward, very easy to add a gift card to any website. And like I said, you might as well add it even if nobody really uses it, just in case anybody ever decides they do want to use it. And it's really automated. Everything in here, like when they purchase the gift card, Shopify takes care of everything on the back end for you. So you don't need to worry about that. It just works. So that is the products section. Products and collections, I think, are really important to go and really start building out our website a little bit more. I'm really excited to talk about some of these other features down here, but let's go back to the online store, and we're going to click on customize. I think you guys remember how to get to this. And from here, you'll see featured products. Still doesn't show anything, but if I click on it, or if I click on it on the left side rather, so let's go back here. We'll click on featured product list. And we can select them as a collection of products. So I'm going to select, And let's say this is going to be just the going fishing or the under $100 collection. Let's say the homepage collection, I guess. And actually, because we have a gift card there, I just want to have like a physical products collection. So going to collections, I'm going to make one more. I'm just going to say anything that the weight is greater than 0, that'll be added to the collection. And if I go back, let's see if that worked. If I look at physical products, all right, it worked. Physical products now has 3. So with that being said, let's go down to online store and we can go to customize, and we want to add featured products here. Right now, there's still nothing there. So if I click on featured products on the left side, so the featured or the product list carousel, we can select a collection. So on the top, select collection, physical products, and there we go. It just added in 3 of our products. Really, you should have probably 4 or 5 to really fill this out, but you'll see this is already starting to look really professional. We didn't have to do anything here, and it's looking quite good. Additionally, if we wanted to change the design, it's a really light design website, which I don't hate the way this looks. I'm not the biggest fan of this font down here, but it's not terrible. It's kind of decent for now. But if we wanted to change that, again, for this section, we can change the color scheme down here. Maybe scheme 3. Maybe it's scheme 3. That could look decent. Actually, no, it doesn't. Let's go back to scheme 2. That looked pretty good as it was. All right, confession, I added some more products. I just wanted this to be a little more filled out down here, but I think this looks pretty decent. Obviously, the website's nowhere near done. There's a lot more we need to do, but that's essentially how a product carousel works. Now, you'll notice this little button on the right side. You can't click it from this interface, but if we ever wanted to view our website, test out our website, we can click on the 3 dots right there, and we can say view. It'll open it in a new tab, and we're able to interact with our website as if we were a viewer or a customer. So when you hover over these, you'll see they switch between the different images. If there are other ones, if you click the right arrow, it'll go over through the whole collection. So you can click over and see all the other products, and now we can see that whole collection. So getting pretty, honestly, it's getting pretty decent. But there's some really cool AI features that I haven't shown you yet. If I go back, and let's just add a new section. Like I said, we talked about all these different sections. There's also apps you can add in here. Let's add a custom section, just like we did in the very beginning. It's a blank section with nothing in it. So let's click on back. And just to show you where this section is, I'm going to add a block. And this first block, I'm just going to make it, I don't know, a button, just so you can see where the section is. There we go. So this is the section right here. For this section, let's change it so that it is a different color as well. Let's make this maybe scheme 4. There you go. So that's the section right here. There's really nothing special about it, but let's add a special kind of block. So if I hover over here and click the add block button, we can click on generate. And this is really incredible. So this is Shopify is able to use AI here to build out the entire block for you. This could be a custom block. You could have a lot of different things going on. It could be interactive. It could, have little animations or a glowing effect. So let's actually set up something like this right now. So let's make it pretty specific. We're looking for a carousel and some little cool animations and effects on how it's going to look. Let's say go, and it's going to generate the code and build out this entire block for us. We can also remove that little button on the bottom in a minute, but let's just watch it, see what it does. So you can see it's just writing a bunch of code over there. And this little thing, you'll recognize this little icon in a couple places throughout Shopify. This is called Sidekick. You'll also see it up on the top. It's able to do a lot for us. So we can have it, for example, make discount codes or really change anything that normally you would have to change. So I'll show you how to make discount codes for sure, but this thing can automatically do it for us. Wow, this is really working hard over there. All right, so this is what it came up with. I actually ran it twice. The first time it came up with this, which was a little bit too tall. All you have to do is run it again though. And now it's asking if there's any follow-up instructions. I don't think I have anything for this. This is pretty decent. It's kind of exactly what I was looking for. And if we click on it, we can click on product slider deck. We should then be able to, actually, let's go back to here. We'll get the product sliders within here. So click on it, select a collection. And for this one, let's just say these are going to be under $100. I don't know. And you'll see, yeah, that's exactly what I wanted. It shows name of it, price. It shows us a little description underneath it, and then view product, as well as the image on the right. I don't like this other one that it made. That's why I had to do it twice. So for the first one right here, let's delete that. And we just have our good section down here. So this is pretty decent. That's exactly what I was looking for, honestly. Now, there are 2 more things I want to talk about. There's a number of other things in here, but 2 more really important things I want to talk about in this. And one is going to be up top. We've got the header, and the other one is the footer. They are slightly different from like just the basic sections we have in the middle. So if we look at the header, we can click on header. And within header, we have a lot of settings here, specifically in regards to how it acts. So if we scroll down, well, one, we have search icon. I don't want the search icon. We can get rid of that. We can choose the positioning of it. You can choose if you want any kind of localization, so based on your region or your country, so different languages. That's a possibility you could have with Shopify. Quite easy to do, actually. We have the appearance if you want it to be full or just page. We can have compact or standard, and we could choose a transparent background right there. I don't want that. And I believe the other thing was, where was that? There we go, sticky header. So you could have it so it's only when you scroll up, it'll reappear. So you scroll down and the second you go up, it pops up. Or you could have it so it's always there or never there. So never would just mean that it's only at the very top and it goes away. I'm going to leave it as a scroll up. I like that for sticky headers. And we can customize this menu here actually in a different place. I never really understood why Shopify didn't just include it here. Most website builders don't just include menu building right here. But you can see the menu, some settings here, but we can actually change that in other settings. So let's go back, and now we can talk about the footer. Going down to the footer. So I never really understood why website builders don't let you customize the menu here, but typically it's just in other settings. If we click to add section, we can actually add an announcement bar. That's the other thing you're able to add up here. And the announcement bar can be like a sale. It could be, really anything you want like that. So let's just make it the dark colorway here. And we can have this, actually to customize it, we have to go back. And within here, we can get multiple announcements that will cycle through. So we could say, let's say, save 10% with code summer10. We can have a link to our collection or just really anything. So physical products. So there's one announcement. We can have multiple announcements here. So if we add a block right there, we can have another announcement. It'll cycle through them. So the second announcement could be maybe shop our latest rivals. Yeah, that's fine as well. And maybe this one can link to a specific product. Let's just go to the newest product, maybe the water skis. And now we have that. So say save. That's the announcement bar. Of course, we don't have that discount code yet. We could do it in multiple different ways. The main way I'll show you is from the Shopify dashboard over here. If we go down to discounts, we can go into create discount. I just switched tabs, by the way. I don't know if you can see that in my screen recording. So I can say there's many different kinds of discounts here. The most basic one would just be amount off products. So discount would be summer 10. This is a discount code. It could be an automatic discount if you have free shipping on certain things, or maybe 10% off when you spend, a certain amount of money or something like that. So percentage, we'll say 10% applies to a specific collection. So we do have to select which products is going to apply to. I can just make it apply to everything in the entire store. So that works like that. It's eligible for all customers. There's no minimum spending requirement. You could limit it one per customer or limited number of times total. So you could say maybe in a collaboration with an influencer, the first 100 people will get 25% off or whatever. So we could have combinations. You can combine it with anything, really. That's fine by me. And then we can have active dates if you want a start date right now, obviously, but an end date if you want this to only run for a week or so, you could do that. So let's save this discount. And that is one way to make a discount. If we click on discounts on the left, as I mentioned, there are a number of other ways to do it. You could have buy one, get one. You could have amount off the entire order. You could have free shipping for certain things. And each one of these has a similar interface to what I just showed you. You kind of just walk through and say, all right, is this going to be exclusive? Does it work with other things? Is it going to have a limited number of times it could be used? And things like that. So I'm going to leave that as it is. And going back to the editing tab right here, the other way we could do that is with Sidekick. So if I say open Sidekick, let's just say create a discount code. So let's just say create a fall 20 discount code. See if it can do it. This is fairly new, and some things don't work. It does a good job with whenever it does work, but there are a couple things that you'll find that it's not quite able to do yet. So let's see if it could do this one. All right, so looks like it gives us a usage limit of 1,000 times, one per customer. Yeah, this looks pretty good. So if I preview this, it brings us right back to the interface I was just showing you. Looks good. We can save this discount now. And if there's anything you want to change, that one had a start and an end time. I don't need an end time on that one. We'll save it. Now we have a second discount code. If we click on discounts again, you can see we have fall 20 and summer 10. Both of them are live discounts now. Great. So we can go back to where we were, online store. We'll go down to customize. I'm going to hide the Sidekick right here, But now, remember I said there were two more things to talk about. One was the header and includes the announcement bar. The second was the footer. So going down to the footer, we can just click on this. And again, there are some similar settings here to what we had in heading. We could choose the size, the color scheme, if there's any padding on this. And there's not a whole lot you're really going to be changing down here. It's pretty basic for a footer, but we could say, so let me scroll down back here. We could add a section to the footer if you wanted to add anything else down here, like a little contact form, a sign up, something like that could be added. And if we want to get rid of these, so email sign up is currently right there, we can click on it and customize anything about this. Same thing with over here. You can click in there and customize those within the footer. So footer has several things down here. You can also add other things if you wanted to. So social media links, for example, they're currently hidden. Let's unhide those. And we can add our social media links, but currently there aren't any right there. So again, we have to go to settings right here. And I believe, and if we click back, we can go to Facebook and edit the Facebook one. We can edit each of these. You see all of them like TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, whatever. And if we don't want one, like maybe Facebook, we can just click delete, and that is now gone. Great. So those are some design fundamentals, but we're still missing some important things for this website. For example, it's still called My Store. So I think it's a good time to save this. And of course, there is more to do on here, more to kind of build out the design. I think this is a really, really good start for a website though. But like I said, some really important settings that we need to get into. So exiting out of the editor there, if we go down to settings on the bottom left, here we have a lot that needs to be changed. Starting off, we can change the name of our store on the very top. If we click on the pencil icon, so let's rename this. Save the new name. If you scroll down, you can change how order IDs are created. On the left side, you can change your plan or billing information. You can add more users. So if you have other people able to access this, you can have different permissions for them. Payments, we don't have any way to accept payments just yet. So if we go over here, we can complete account setup for Shopify payments. It kind of just walks you through, like enter your name or your business name, and then either your EIN or your SSN, or obviously that's just regionally dependent. Down here, we can also add PayPal. So that doesn't show up right now, but if you say add payment method, PayPal is another one that you could add there. We have checkout options if we want to customize anything in checkout. So you could, for example, require a shipping address, a phone number if you're shipping with a carrier that requires phone numbers. You could also have marketing options if you want to have email and SMS, so you can have the option for people to opt in or out of those. If you want customers to be able to make accounts, which I usually think is a pretty beneficial thing, you can have this enabled, and that way people can make an account when they order something. That way it's easier for them to go back and see their orders if they ever want to return something or order it again. Shipping and delivery, you can create shipping profiles here, and this would be really, generally if you have a small store, you'll probably just have one or two shipping profiles. You might have just one carrier. You can have different things for different parts of the world, but you could also just have free shipping across your entire store if you wanted to make that a shipping profile. So right now we just have general shipping rates. You could create a custom shipping profile, like I said, and it could be maybe like canoe paddles are fairly large. I could add that in here, and we could have, maybe it's going to go to certain markets. We'll say save. We have taxes and duties, locations if you have multiple storefronts or multiple warehouses, for example, probably would make more sense. Markets, as I mentioned with shipping, if you have more markets you're selling to, so an international market, you could add that here. Let's go back. I don't want to be in here. And then we have domains. Somehow I always do this. I always forget to add domains until so late in the video, but fortunately you stuck around long enough to see this part. This is really, really important. This is the domain on the top, so shopify.com. You could either connect one if you already have one, and technically you could save a couple dollars doing this. So if I go to namecheap.com, I'm not recommending this necessarily, but you could search for, so O'Brien Outfitters. It looks like this, I think, should be available. I don't know if it's .fashion. I don't want that. I want .com. And it looks like it's $11.28 per year. And the retail, they say $15 per year. So I think that's a coupon initially. And they might have some, I don't know, Namecheap, like, all right, so it looks like between $12 and $15 per year. If we go through Shopify, though, so if I say buy new domain, and we look up o'brienoutfitters.com, $16 per year. So you're looking at an extra, I don't know, $3 or $4 per year to go through Shopify. I personally think it's worthwhile just to go through Shopify. You can make your own decision, but just having like your credit card on 2 different sites, and then when your credit card expires, you have to go back and update it on both of them. And it's just more of a headache for me than it's worth. I think it's so much easier to not have to point your domain over, just to buy it through Shopify, and it just automatically works. It's set up with your Shopify store. It's so much more bulletproof to do it this way. To me, it's always worth a couple extra dollars per year. So I can buy this domain. All right, so we have purchased this domain. You'll see in your inbox, by the way, 2 emails you'll be getting. One is to verify your Shopify account, and the other one will be for your domain. Make sure you go through both of them and click verify. Otherwise, your domain, I think you have 7 days to do that before it'll be discontinued and you lose your domain. So if we say see status, it'll probably be yellow. Yeah, we need to go and verify our domain in our email. Continuing on the left side, there's a couple things I'm just going to skip over here, languages and stuff like that. But if I go to policies, this is a really cool thing Shopify offers. They have some policies that are predefined for us that we can use, essentially templates. So if I click on refund policy, you can type out your policy. You could use ChatGPT to create your policy. You could use an attorney to create your policy, or you could insert a template. Of course, obviously you want to read this to make sure you know what it is, because you're saying this is your policy, but it saves a lot of time by using their policies. Same things with the terms of service. Publish that one. The shipping policy, actually that doesn't have a template. Contact information, we can add that one, that is required. But otherwise, those are really the key settings I wanted to show you. So actually return rules, that's interesting. If I click on manage, there should be a self-return option that you could enable. So if you have, really large store and you just want to cut back on time or save time a little bit by not having to manage returns, you can make it automatic for some people. You can also choose, the return window here. Is there a restocking fee? You can add that and say, hey, maybe it's going to be 5% restocking fee. We can have it for all collections or specific collections. And we could say, hey, maybe it's going to be, this one is a final sale. Anything in that collection you can't return. So let's save that. Just another option down here. Let's close out of this now. And a couple final items I want to go through on the left side. Well, of course, we have our customers here. As people start to order things, you'll see customer details there. So if anybody contacts you and need to look up a customer, you can find that here. You can also organize them into segments. We have marketing. So this is going to be some marketing tools to be here. Usually I use more of the other apps for marketing down on the bottom, but you can see some analytics up here as well. We've got discounts. We already talked about that. You guys remember how to do discounts. Content. This is really just all of the content, all the files you have on your website. So if you need to swap out an image somewhere that's used in multiple places on your website, or if you want to edit that or something, you can manage that right here. Markets, we talked about that. There's, international markets. Finance. So if you do need to, eventually once you have money coming into you, you can go down here. You'll see how much money you have in your Shopify balance. You can withdraw that. You can get a shop card and pay like that if you'd prefer. But you can manage all your finance down here. And then analytics, just showing you, who's viewing your website, how many sales you're getting, the returning customers, how many orders are being fulfilled, what part along the way is in need of optimization. Maybe people are adding to their cart, but they're not checking out. You'll find all of that down in analytics. And also, if we go down here, sales channels, I mentioned there are other options for different sales channels besides just your website. So for example, if you want to add TikTok, start selling on TikTok Shop, we can install that. And I have a totally separate video talking about how to set up TikTok Shop. I'll link that down below, but I'll say install just so we have that option here. And you'll see on the left side, it shows up under there. Now I'm going to click on pin to navigation just so it's easier to find. I usually pin all my apps there so you can find them. And then when you go to apps, there are a lot of other integrations that Shopify is able to manage. For example, you could add some Shopify ones. So translation, you could have bundles, there's Shopify subscriptions. So you could have subscribe and save on your website where you save maybe 5% if you get a monthly subscription. People doing that as a customer, you can add those quite easily. There's also a lot of marketing ones. So one that we usually do like to add is called OmniSend. So if I click on apps right there, I can search apps and say OmniSend, we'll add that. And I can say install, and we have a totally separate video again for this one showing you how to set up OmniSend. But again, just clicking install, it's going to add it to the left side. And that just walks you through the setup process for OmniSend pretty much immediately. So let's go back. And remember I said this is really focused on design. There are other aspects of Shopify, those, peripherals connecting to Instagram, Meta, running ads, OmniSend, things like that. Those are separate videos, but I hope you found this video helpful in understanding the tools and resources you have available to design your Shopify store. So thank you for watching. I wish you all the best of luck with your stores, and I'll see you in one of those other videos.